Welcome to the French Wedding Podcast with your host Naïm, the only podcast in English about weddings in France. Great conversations, tips and insights about your French wedding, some wisdom before your big day, and the opportunity to hear wedding professionals actually living and working in France, only for your day to be the most amazing to remember.
Hello everyone and welcome to the French Wedding Podcast. Greetings from France. This is the place where we're recording this show. I'm Naïm, professional ceremony officiant based in my hometown Paris, and I created this show especially for future brides and grooms willing to get married in Paris or anywhere in France. Each episode is an occasion to meet a main actor of the industry, can be a vendor such as a wedding planner, hair and makeup artists, bridal salon, videographer, venue owner, bloggers, you name it. This show exists to bring you some insight about how people do things in France regarding the wedding industry, but we also share funny stories, things to know, and special memories when we happen to work together on the very same wedding. After 25 years in the fashion industry, she developed a deep respect for doing less. In the course of the last decade, she decided to put aside her fashion work and founded Travellur, a travel planning service providing and promoting slow travel. So without further delay, please welcome on the show Coco Kliks, your guide to a slower way to travel. Coco, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Naïm. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and the audience today. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show. I was looking forward to speak to you. And I think we can kickstart with one topic that I've seen going through your website is slow travel is the new luxury. I really, really love that. Can you explain me what's behind it?
Yes, I would love to, because it's something that I feel really strongly about. Well, first, yes, slow is a new luxury. That's one of my taglines. And why do I feel that way? Because I think in this increasingly busy, demanding world that we live in and the lives that we lead, where we're constantly working on deadlines and rushing from here to there, I think slowness and taking time to do nothing is kind of a luxury that people rarely allow for themselves or create in their life. And sometimes, we all, well, most of us, I think, understand in general terms this concept of slow living. But the reality for most people is that slow living is not really attainable in your everyday life. You can have moments of slow, but to be really slow living, it's just not possible for a lot of people, or they don't know how to implement it. But when you travel, this is an opportunity to live your life in a different way for a week, and incorporate slow living into that week. And one of the things that I always counsel my travel clients is that, instead of building an itinerary where you're one day here and then you're rushing over there, you have one day there and then another day here, I always tell them, pick your favorite place and just stay there for the whole week. Instead of running around to like 5 different places when you're just going to spend your entire vacation traveling from one place to the other, you can stay on a train the whole time or rush around at home all the time. So why would you want to do that on your vacation? And so why I think it's like the new luxury, because I think that this is something that people are really craving and are ready for. And it's kind of a luxury that they can give themselves that they can't get in their normal everyday life. So it's something that it's a luxury that we can build into their vacation or their travel experience, that doesn't necessarily cost anymore, but the return on investment is really valuable.
That really resonated with me when I first read that, because I'm a big fan of less is more. I really like this time is the new luxury, time is the new currency. After all, reducing all the rush and all the stress in our everyday life, you end up realizing that time is the most important thing.
Yes. And I think intentional slowing down is the antidote for the stress of modern life. But it's, as our life gets more and more modern and more busy, it's increasingly difficult to bring the slowness into your everyday life. So slow travel sometimes is the only way that people can experience slow living.
You're the founder of Travellur, your company, a boutique travel service. You provide slow travel group tours and custom travel planning. What's behind that?
Well, so I want to bring my slow travel paradigm to people's vacations and also their group tours. So I have two kinds of travel clients. I have what I call like retail clients. These are like individuals or families who want to plan a trip together. And sometimes they're in like individuals, sometimes they're couples, sometimes they're small families, or sometimes it's like a group, like a family group or a special birthday that they want to celebrate, something like that. And then I also organize tours, retreats, and workshops for businesses or brands. So it could be like a magazine, or it could be maybe a photographer who wants to do a photography retreat, or a painter who wants to do a painting retreat, or maybe even a magazine who wants to do like a lifestyle tour. So in that case, my client is the person who wants to create the tour, workshop, or retreat. And then their clients are the attendees or the guests who come along.
Right. So you are kind of advising people on how to spend their time wisely.
Yes. And I think in both cases, people usually come to me with a long list of all the things that they want to do. And my job is partially to help them navigate their options and find the one that best suits their goals in terms of what they want to experience, and then to try to create an itinerary that makes their primary experience that they want to have the best it can be. But also that means usually editing out all the other stuff that is not important, or is just going to complicate things, or is just going to make too much transport back and forth all the time. So a lot of times I'm actually editing out like half the things that people want to do. But
Wow.
yeah, but in the end, they really thank me for it, because they think, oh, wow, we had such a great time in this one village. But we wouldn't have had that magical experience where the bartender at that cafe invited us to go check out his farm where he grows his special red bell peppers that he makes a snack at the bar with. But we wouldn't have been able to do that if we were on a train going to another village. So in the end, I think that their experience is much more valuable and more local. Like they really experience what is happening in that one village and meet people from that village, or experience something that can only be had in that one village, as opposed to kind of having a superficial experience in three villages, which may be less memorable. In the end, you might not remember any of the villages because you didn't have any real meaningful experience in any of them that would make you really remember your time there.
That sounds pretty overwhelming when you realize that you must have lived 20,000 life to know a network that deep in all the circuits that you're proposing to your clients. How did it all started? How did you have the idea, the sparkle for Travellur?
Well, let's see. How did it start? In a previous life, I was a fashion designer. For
Right.
25 years, I worked in fashion. And at the last few years of that, I worked in a consultant freelance basis because I was really missing a work life balance. And I had worked really hard for like 15 years, 20 years, and I realized that I had missed out on a lot of my life and my travel, which is so important to me. And so I went freelance in order to try to recapture some of that life work balance. And I started organizing trips in the summer to the south of France with my friends and family, where we would rent a big villa and stay there for a week or two and just hang out and really do as much nothing as possible. And that doing nothing, just, like going to the market in the morning, buying some local vegetables and experiencing and trying local snacks, and then stopping at the winery on the way home and getting the local rosé, and then going home and making a big lunch and laughing and taking a little swim and taking a nap in the evening and going for a walk. I mean, this is like, to me, it just seemed like real living. It
Of
was all
course.
the kind of stuff that not happening in my apartment in New York City.
Mm.
So, yeah, and it was so rewarding and so enriching, and it just made my life so much warmer and like appreciated. And I got such great feedback from my friends and family, and each year the villa would get bigger, more people would come, we would stay for longer, like, until it would got to be like 2 or 3 villas, and we would stay for
Oh
like
my
5
God.
weeks, and people were coming and going, and people started asking me, hey, can you organize this same thing for me and my family next summer? And I would say, I would love to. And I truly did love to, because I
Wow.
just have such a good feeling in my heart when I know that I'm bringing these experiences to people that enrich their life and make their life more satisfying. And soon I realized, hey, you know what? I'm getting so much more reward and return doing this than I am doing fashion. After so many years in fashion, I was kind of getting tired of, so much work and uh, kind of manipulation about selling a new dress, that was in the next and disposable and forgotten about. And it was all about the next dress, and it wasn't rewarding me the way that it was. When I first started fashion, the business was very different. And by the time I ended, the industry was going in a direction that seemed really unfulfilling to me. It was just about doing more and more volume at smaller and smaller margins, clothes becoming more disposable, less important, less about design. It was more about marketing. So all these things chipped away at what I loved about fashion, which was kind of creating beauty and having this kind of like perfect fashion moment in a fashion show or a photo shoot. And I realized that I was having so much more meaning in my life planning these vacations. And then I discovered Instagram, and on Instagram, I found somebody. Her name is Beth Kirby, and she has a company called Local Milk.
Okay.
And she was doing these slow living retreats. And I was absolutely fascinated by this whole concept. And I recognized what I was doing. I said, wait, this is what I'm doing with my 5 week long vacations that I'm planning with my friends and family and their friends and family. And so I thought, okay, well, hey, this is like a business. People can do this. Like, this is a thing, you know? And so I thought, okay, well, why don't I try this? And that's where I got this concept for Travellur, that I was going to organize these slow living or creative based retreats for people. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm lucky to have a lot of creative, really inspiring artists in my life, in my professional and personal relationships. And I thought, okay, well, this is a great way to start, to work with these people who have a strong following and have something to offer. And, it's a great chance for me to work with my friends and do something that develops their business, and also make a business out of it for myself. And so I started doing these retreats with people who were either wellness experts or artists, or they had something to give, something that people wanted to learn. And so that's how I started. Um, and I also, from the start, did like personal vacation planning as well, because what happens is that all the attendees who come on a tour or workshop or retreat, obviously, to some degree, they are into what I'm doing, which is slow travel, or like enriched travel, and they are interested in having those kind of trips themselves. So they kind of became like the retail travel clientele for me as well. And sort of early on in Travellur's life, I was really, really lucky to connect with some influential people in the wedding world, which I really didn't have much of a grasp on. I mean, I had a little insight into it through fashion, because obviously there's the bridal industry, like bridal dresses and stuff, but it wasn't really a market that I knew much about. Um, but when I started working with um, this kind of wedding and lifestyle magazine and some really talented uh, creative influencers in the wedding world, I realized quickly that, wow, there's this whole world, this whole industry, this whole level of creative excellence that is really in line with what I'm into. And um, I noticed that the same people that I loved working with in fashion world were all working in wedding world. So like the designer, yeah, the designers, the makeup artists, the photographers, the kind of set designers or, creative
Right.
directors that I worked with in fashion were all working in wedding world. And it was great. I just fit right in because I spoke that language. I understood the kind of things that are important to those people about look and mood and lighting and colors and all this kind of stuff
Right.
that was always discussion on the table in fashion world. But what I found, the most important thing is that all these great creative people in wedding world were so much happier because they were getting paid. They were eating.
Hmm.
Whereas in
Yeah.
fashion world, they are not getting paid and they are not eating.
Right.
So it just seemed like a perfect fit. And I think that my colleagues felt the same about me. Like they they saw that I had the same kind of creative and
Vision.
aesthetic values as they did. So there was an immediate connection and trust happening there. Like when we had to spend a lot of time, a lot of money or resources just getting the look of the place the right way. I didn't bat an eye at
Hmm.
that. I totally understood that. You know what I mean? Whereas maybe
Of
another
course.
travel partner would not understand.
The importance of all these details in the end results. And what year was that? What year did you realize that industry was related to yours?
I guess that must have been like 2006, 2007, maybe. I think 2006. Yeah, late 2006. As I started working more with these people, like I said, I was really lucky to start working with top influencers at the beginning. And when you work with great people at the start, then other great people are attracted to you and they see, oh, you worked with so and so. Oh, what did you do with them? And then they see, oh, actually, you're doing something that I need too. So it kind of just happened word of mouth from there, and more I kept getting attracted to and sort of adopted into the wedding world. And so now I would say that, it's at least 60% of my business is wedding related.
What do you propose exactly for destination wedding clients willing to work to get married? Sorry, in France.
Well, there's a couple different services that I offer that could be interesting to couples looking to marry in France or in other parts of Europe. First, I think, is the venue search that I do. So that's when I help the bridal couple or sometimes even their wedding planner find the perfect venue in France or Italy or a Mediterranean island that they want. Another thing that I do is vendor referral. Um, and sometimes, the client already has a wedding planner and they're all from San Diego, so they don't have a complete um, list of vendors or venues that that they need in France. Or sometimes I'm just helping with logistics and finding the right thing and getting it to the right place, because maybe they're working with they want to get married in France and they're working with a French wedding planner, but that wedding planner doesn't know where to get some specific thing. Maybe they want antique furniture, or they want something really specialty. And so I find it and I make sure that it gets to where it needs to be at the right time. And then another thing that I do, which I think is unique, and anybody listening out there who knows somebody else who's doing this, contact me and let me know, because I'd be very interested. Is, and so I'm inventing a name, which is guest travel packages. And these guest travel packages are specifically designed for destination weddings. Because what I noticed is that there was this kind of gap, a need that needed to be filled for the guests of the wedding who are traveling to attend the wedding, because the wedding planner obviously has her hands full organizing and planning and coordinating the wedding, and the bride has, well, she's probably got her five hands full of living her life, getting herself together, you know, doing dress fittings and hair tests and tastings and everything,
Mhm.
but there's nobody really assigned to taking care of the guests. And brides may be surprised to learn that this is not the job of the wedding planner. Believe it or not, they're busy doing other stuff. So what
Easy,
happens
yeah.
is, like, yeah, there's nobody assigned to this role, and what happens is like it might land in the lap of either the bride or the planner at the last minute. And for either case, like this is a sure route to overwhelm either for the planner or total overwhelm for the bride, and a sure way to like ruin her whole experience because, you know, who wants to be the travel agent for 100 guests? You know?
That's really true. It really makes sense to me.
Right? I mean,
100%.
it's, you know, something that maybe they're not thinking about in advance, but the reality is that there is this need. Somebody's got to do it. So I have figured out a way to do travel planning for these guests that
Hmm.
costs the bride nothing and it costs the planner nothing. I take care of everything, and the guests have a better experience. The bride has a better overall experience because she's not trying to handle it herself. And the planner does a much better job at planning the wedding because she knows that somebody else is taking care of all this stuff and that she's not going to get 25 phone calls the day of, I can't find parking, or my cell phone's not working, or nobody picked us up, or I'm lost, you know.
Of
So,
course.
you know, there's somebody else handling all of that. So the guest travel package is typically includes transport from the airport or train station or whatever, to the accommodation, transport to and from the venue the day of the event. And usually there's maybe one group activity, maybe a wine tasting or a boat day or a tour on a barge on the canal or something like this. And then maybe like a dinner, a group dinner. And what is included in the guest travel package is something that I discuss with the bride. And the bride can tell me, okay, I really want to have you know, a theme to these activities, like, or my people love wine. We want it to be all about wine, you know, or, you know, my people are really into food and we want to have a cooking class, or
Hmm.
my family is really into food, but my husband's family is really into wine. So they want to do a wine tasting. My people want to do a cooking class, but everybody wants to have a group dinner together or something like that. And typically we have 2 or 3 different packages for the guests to choose from. So maybe there's going to be one family package where you can stay at a villa with another family, and then there's like a kid friendly activity that we all do together or that they all do together. And then there's like a singles package where all the single people in the house want to get together and stay at like kind of more a happening hipster hotel
Right.
where they're going to have, you know, a bachelorette party or a bachelor night or something like that, go to a nightclub, have a dance party. And then maybe there's like the couples package where they want to stay at a more quiet romantic place, you know, and maybe they're going to have a
Hmm.
spa package as part of their deal. I don't know. So I have a consultation with the bride, and we talk about, you know, who her people are, what they like, what kind of, you know, are they mostly families, are they mostly couples, are they young people who want to party, and we come up with something that we think that they'll like. And because of my professional discounts that I get, and I have the leverage of a group discount as well, I'm able to save money. So even with my fee, which is included in the guest travel package price, the guest typically saves money, doesn't spend as much as if they had planned it on their own. Um,
Right.
yeah. And so really everybody wins, you know, doesn't cost the bride.
Seems like, yeah, that's what I was about to say. Seems like it's the winning equation. How did you how did you find it?
I just saw this need, and then I figured out a way to do it where like, wow, this is genius. Everybody gets what they want and everybody's happy. And when I explain this to wedding planners, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much. because
It is.
their life a lot easier, and it just takes a whole layer of anxiety off their plate, and the same for the bride. So once people learn about what I'm doing and what I'm offering, it's a pretty easy sell. People pretty much do it.
Definitely. When I listen to you, it seems like you have millions of ideas at the same time. But on the other hand, the way you're talking is very slow and relaxed. How do you get this tranquility when you're rushing through your business day?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that staying in the moment and doing one step at a time is really important. Because I do a better job when I'm just doing what I'm doing in that moment and not worrying about all the other things I have to do. And that's kind of a paradigm that I can apply to my travel planning as well, and how I want to plan a vacation for somebody. Because if they're worrying about catching the train that they need to get in the afternoon so they can make it to the next town in order to check off their 15-point checklist of all the things that they do on their list, then they're not enjoying the crepe that they're eating right now at this table. They're like
100%.
stuffing their face with the crepe because they don't want to miss the train.
Yes.
But
You forget the now.
yeah, but if there's no train to catch, then they can really enjoy that crepe. you know?
True. It's really, really nice and makes a lot of sense to go back, especially like you said at the start of our conversation, go back to the present moment in these troubled times is sometimes difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, we just need to like set up our environment to allow that to happen. And it's not going to happen when you're rushing around.
100%. And do you have plans or projects that you want to talk about today?
Yes, I do actually. I am so excited about this big project that I've been working on this summer, which is my Provence venue guide.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tell us a bit more about it.
yeah. Oh, wow. So this is another thing that kind of grew up out of a need that I saw. I do a lot of venue searches for people,
Okay.
companies, for planners, for brides, people on vacation. And I started noticing two things. One, um, I would I would have, like, let's say it's a venue guide, a venue search, a wedding venue search. Started noticing that the information that I was sending was getting kind of repetitive. Like I would just had this, people would come to me typically wanting similar things, maybe with one or two little variations. And
Mhm.
I could send them a list of different things. Maybe I have like 5 that I already had in my list, and then maybe 3 more that I had to research a little bit to add and find like the special thing that they wanted. So I noticed that, hey, I'm kind of like developing this list of venues that I will recommend over and over again. And then the other thing that I was noticing is that getting the information from the venues was really difficult. And as an American who has like a really high standard of
Mhm.
customer service,
Yes.
coming to France and then having to adjust to this different level of customer service was sometimes really frustrating for me, and I know really really frustrating for my clients when they would start working with these venues or trying to get information from the venues directly themselves. And in the end, that's why they come to me, because they just are not getting the replies from venues that they needed to make their decision. So what I had this idea that, hey, I need to make this a venue guide that can help brides and planners find the venue that they want. Um, and okay, I'm cutting myself out of this equation. But you know, I can do I can only do so many custom venue searches in a month with all the other things that I'm doing. But if I make a guide, I can help a lot more people because they can just buy the guide and search it themselves, you know? But getting the information from each vendor, believe it or not, is really really difficult.
I do know that. And actually, I'm trying to create a massive reaction from my people because I'm a French national, um, to encourage all my fellow French citizens to wake up on that side because, yeah, the standards sometimes, not everyone, luckily, but sometimes that could be really overwhelming, especially for Americans
Yes.
willing to have the right information at the right time.
Yes, timing is so important. Um,
Very much.
and if you are catering to a foreign client, you really need to have this together. And and so what happens is like I can only of maybe like 8 venues that meet my client's criteria, I'm be able to recommend 5 because I know that 3 of those venues do not have the customer service that my client is going to want or expect. And so I can't even recommend them because I know it's just going to like create problems for my
Mm-mm.
client.
Yeah, no good.
If I have a guide that has all that information already there, then they can just take a look at the guide and they can review 45 venues at one time, you know,
Right.
and instead of taking months to figure it out. Because literally some of these venues, like it takes months, months, months of, 10, 20 emails, several phone calls a week to get basic
Hmm.
information like the
Right.
price or how many bedrooms do you have? Do you have a catering kitchen, on-site parking?
Hmm.
Like really basic stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Things that you need to organize everything on the.
yeah, or even to know whether this venue is feasible or not for what I want to do
Hmm.
or for my client. Um, and a lot of venues, and this is good for the venues too, because, a lot of venues took so long to get back to me that, maybe 3 months later, they're like, oh, yeah, we've got 3 bedrooms. I'm like, that client is already married and done.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks. That ship has sailed.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it also helps the venues because if they're listed in this guide and the client has all the information, they're able to make a decision about, oh, okay, I want to pursue this venue because they've got that pétanque court that I need, or they've got the 50 parking spaces that I want, or they have the nomad tent that I envision. Uh, But if that venue takes 3 months to get back to them saying, yeah, we got that tent, they're not going to get that business because that customer has already made a decision months ago.
Seems like when I listen to you, I once again realized that you are some kind of time manager because at the end of the day, seems like all you're providing is time to your client, which is the most important thing.
Which is a luxury.
It is, yeah. It goes back to our to your motto: "Slow travel is the new luxury." It really makes sense. And this guide, we can find it already online.
Um, it will be. By the time you
Will be
you broadcast this podcast, it will be. I'm just
perfect.
finishing touches on it now. And yeah, in terms of you're right about time saving, it's a massive time saver, especially if you're a planner. And you're going to have to be looking at a database of 30, 40 venues in one season for your, you know, maybe 5 or 10 weddings that you're doing every year.
Hmm.
It's going to save you so much time because I'm kind of guesstimating that each listing that I have, and there's 45 in this venue guide, each listing takes me about 12 hours of research to complete.
Okay. So
And
everything is packed
yeah,
and full of
let's,
information guide.
let's just say 10 to like make it an easy math. Um,
Hmm.
and so, you know, that's like a lot of time that I,
It is, yeah.
and this is all time that I'm saving the planner or the bride, you know, that's 450 hours. And
Yeah.
that's not talking about the 15 venues that I researched that just didn't make the cut,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not counting the time and cost it took me to do site visits or take photos
Right.
or any of those things. Just for the information that's in the guide is like 450 hours of work. So that's a lot of time, or if it's a business for you, if you're a planner, that's a lot of money that you've saved on research, you know. So for a fraction of that, you can have everything in your hands in one go and be able to refer to these venues over and over again, year after year, and you don't have to do the research, which is, I think, a real time and money saver for people.
Definitely. So I will not leave a link to the guide in the show notes, but I will put your website. Where can people find you online?
You can find me at travellur.com. That's TRAVELLUR.com, like travellure.com.
Hmm.
I hope that by the time you publish this podcast, I will give you a link, a direct link that you can put in your show notes,
Hmm.
or to buy the venue guide. And I also want to say a little bit more about the guide in that there's three parts to it. So there's a part for hotels and B&Bs, like bed and breakfast, and then another section for villas, and another section for dedicated wedding venues, so that you can just buy one section. If you know that you want to do it at a hotel, you just buy the hotel part. Or if you know
Okay.
you want to do it at a private villa, you just buy the villa part. Or if you're a wedding planner, you can buy all three for a discounted price.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Perfect. So people are free to contact you. I will leave the website in the show notes. And then once it will be published, I will just update the show notes with the guide to the link, guys. Coco, thank you so much for taking the time, which is a new luxury, to be with us today. And I hope we can meet in the real world of Paris very soon.
I do too. Well, I feel like this was time well spent, Naeem. I'm so glad
Definitely.
be here and have an opportunity to talk about things that I'm passionate about, and share with your listeners how I think that I can make their wedding in France easier and slower.
Great words to end on. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Naeem. Have a great day.
Hey guys, thanks again for listening to the show today. You can find more information on our guests in the show notes, as well as my contact and my website. If you have any questions regarding your French wedding, I'm happy to help. Also, please do not hesitate to leave a review for the show. There's also a link for that. That will literally take 1 minute of your precious time and will mean the world to me. I always appreciate your support. Thank you again very much for your time and feedback. Wishing you a great day or a great night anywhere you are in the world. I send you some good vibrations and we'll talk to you again soon for a new episode. Bye bye.